The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by any known species. It floated in the void between three star systems, a massive sphere of metal and crystal that could hold representatives from over 500 different worlds. Today, every seat was filled. Every eye, every sensor, every appendage was focused on the small group of humans standing at the central podium. Ambassador. Daniel Harris felt the weight of those stares pressing down on him. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes, and he had served humanity in this hall for nearly 20 years. In all that time, he had never felt so alone. The Galactic Council has reached its decision, announced High Arbiter Veluxus, an insectoid creature standing nearly 3 meters tall. His voice clicked and buzzed through the translation matrix, emerging as cold, precise words. The human species is found guilty of violating Section 447 of the Neutral Corridor Agreement. The punishment is as follows: a fine of 12 trillion galactic credits, the immediate evacuation of all human settlements in Sectors 7 through 9, and a formal apology to be broadcast across all galactic channels. A murmur of approval rippled through the chamber. Daniel noticed several delegates exchanging pleased glances. The Valorians, those smooth-skinned amphibians who had always despised humanity, were practically glowing with satisfaction. Daniel turned to his aide, Katie Brooks. A young woman fresh from the diplomatic academy on Earth, she was pale, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her datapad. "The colonies," she whispered. "There are 6 million people in those sectors." Daniel nodded grimly. He knew exactly how many people lived in those sectors. He knew their names, their stories, their dreams. He had visited those worlds himself, walked through their cities, eaten at their tables. Those colonies had been built on dead rocks, worlds that no other species wanted. Humans had spent 50 years turning them into gardens. And now, because the Council had redrawn a boundary line 3 years ago, all of it was to be taken away, Ambassador Harris Veluxus said, his mandibles clicking impatiently. Does humanity accept the Council's judgment? Daniel looked around the chamber. He saw the Keth delegation, those tall insectoids who controlled the food trade. He saw the Nexians, crystalline beings who dominated banking and finance. He saw the Valorians, the Thraxians, the countless other species who had spent a century treating humanity like an unwelcome guest at their table. For 100 years, humanity had tried to be good neighbors. They had shared their technology freely. They had opened their markets. They had sent doctors to plague-ridden worlds and engineers to failing colonies. They had asked only for fairness in return. And what had they received? Trade restrictions that crippled their economy. Technology embargoes that stunted their growth. Constant accusations of violations, crimes, and infractions that other species committed openly without consequence. Daniel had seen a Valorian, his fleet destroy an entire moon to mine its core. No charges were filed. He had watched the Keth poison a planet's atmosphere to eliminate a competitor species. The Council looked the other way. But when humans built a colony on a worthless rock that happened to fall within a newly redrawn boundary, suddenly the full weight of galactic law came crashing down. Ambassador Harris Veluxus repeated, irritation creeping into his synthesized voice. Your response? Daniel straightened his shoulders. He thought of his granddaughter back on Earth, a bright-eyed girl who dreamed of one day traveling to distant stars. He thought of all the human children who had grown up, believing that the galaxy was a place of wonder and opportunity. He thought of how wrong they had been. I must consult with Earth before providing an official response, Daniel said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Counselor Threx, the chief Valorian delegate, let out a wet, bubbling chuckle that made Daniel's skin crawl. Consult all you wish. Human, Threx said, his wide mouth stretching into something that might have been a smile. You will comply. You always comply. Your species lacks the courage to do anything else. Daniel felt Katie stiffen beside him. He placed a gentle hand on her arm, warning her to stay calm. We shall see, Daniel said quietly. He gathered his documents, tucked them under his arm, and walked out of the chamber. Katie followed close behind, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. No one tried to stop them. No one thought they needed to. After all, what could humanity possibly do? The human embassy on Nexus Station was a modest building compared to the grand palaces maintained by other species. It had always been that way. Humanity could not afford the bribes necessary to secure better accommodations. Daniel walked through the doors and immediately began issuing orders. Begin evacuation protocols. All non-essential personnel are to leave the station within 12 hours. Send word to every human vessel in alien space. They are to return to Sol immediately. Katie stared at him. Sir, what are you doing? Daniel sat down at his desk and activated the secure communication link to Earth. The face that appeared on the screen was familiar, though aged with worry. President Nathan Cole had been in office for only 2 years, but he looked like he had aged 20. I watched the proceedings, Cole said quietly. I take it we're done pretending? Daniel nodded. They've made their position clear, Mr. President. We will never be accepted here. No matter what we do, no matter how hard we try, they will always see us as lesser beings to be exploited and controlled. Cole leaned back in his chair. Behind him, Daniel could see the lights of Washington, D.C. glittering in the night. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were going about their lives, aware that their future was being decided in this moment. Project Homecoming, Cole asked. Ready to execute on your order, sir? The president was silent for a long moment. Daniel knew what he was thinking. This decision would change everything. There would be no going back. Do it, Cole finally said. Bring our people home. All of them. Daniel felt something release in his chest. Fear, perhaps. Or maybe hope. He was not sure which. Understood, Mr. President. What message should I deliver to the Council? Cole's expression hardened. Tell them that humanity is done asking for permission to exist. Tell them that we are withdrawing from all galactic agreements, effective immediately. Tell them that if they want to find us, they know where Earth is, but they should think very carefully before they come knocking. The communication ended. Daniel sat alone in his office for several minutes, letting the weight of the moment settle over him. Then he stood, straightened his jacket, and walked back to the great hall of the Galactic Council. The delegates were still celebrating when he entered. The laughter died as they saw his face. Earth withdraws from all galactic agreements, Daniel announced, his voice ringing through the chamber. Effective immediately. This embassy is closed. All humans will be leaving alien space within 72 hours. Do not attempt to contact us. Do not attempt to stop us. We are going home. He turned and walked out. Behind him, silence turned to confusion, and confusion turned to the first stirrings of fear. But it was too late. The humans were already gone. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Humans were leaving. Not just the diplomats, not just the military, but everyone. Every merchant, every scientist, every tourist, every worker. Ships by the thousands were streaming toward the Sol system. The communication channels silent, their intentions unknown. On Nexus Station, Counselor Threx watched the exodus from his private chambers. His wide amphibian eyes tracked the human vessels as they passed, one after another, disappearing into the darkness between stars. Good riddance, he muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. His aide, a younger Valorian named Cephas, stood nervously by the door. Counselor, there are reports coming in from across the sector. Human businesses are closing. Human workers are abandoning their posts. The spaceport on Nexus Prime has lost half its maintenance crew overnight. Threx waved a webbed hand dismissively. They will be back. They always come back. Humans are weak. They need us. But even as he spoke, a cold doubt began to form in his belly. He thought of all the times he had pushed the humans, insulted them, cheated them. They had always accepted it. They had always smiled and nodded and asked politely for better treatment. This time, they had simply walked away. Across the station, Katie Brooks was supervising the final evacuation of the human embassy. Workers carried boxes of documents and personal belongings to waiting shuttles. The walls were bare now, stripped of the photographs and artwork that had made this place feel like a small piece of home. Ambassador Daniel Harris appeared at her side. He looked exhausted but strangely peaceful, as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. "The last shuttle leaves in 20 minutes, Katie reported. "All personnel have been accounted for." "We're ready, sir." Daniel nodded slowly. He looked around the empty building, remembering all the meetings held here. All the arguments, all the small victories and crushing defeats. 20 years, he said quietly. "I spent 20 years trying to make them see us as equals. 20 years of smiling when they insulted us. 20 years of accepting unfair judgments because fighting back would only make things worse." Katie did not know what to say. She had only been in the diplomatic corps for years. But she had already learned how the galaxy really worked. Humans were tolerated, never respected. They were useful, never valued. "Do you think we're doing the right thing, sir?" she asked. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, a sad but genuine smile. "I don't know if it's right," he admitted, "but I know it's honest. For the first time in a century, we're being honest about who we are and what we want. We want to be left alone. We want to build our own future without asking permission from beings who will never accept us." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens next, at least we'll face it on our own terms." They boarded the last shuttle together. As the vessel lifted off and joined the great stream of ships heading towards Seoul, neither of them looked back. On Earth, President Nathan Cole addressed the people of his world. Every screen, every speaker, every holographic display carried his words. "My fellow humans," he began, "today marks the end of an era. For 100 years we have tried to find our place in the galactic community. We have given freely of our knowledge, our resources, and our labor. We have hoped that through patience and goodwill, we would eventually be accepted as equals among the stars." He paused, and his expression hardened. "That hope has been answered with contempt. Our colonies have been stolen. Our people have been exploited. Our dignity has been trampled. And when we have protested, we have been laughed at and told to be grateful for whatever scraps we receive. The streets of every city on Earth were silent. People stood frozen before their screens, listening. No more," Cole declared. "Today humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council and all associated agreements. We are bringing our people home. We are closing our borders. And we are building a future that belongs to us alone." His voice softened slightly. "I will not pretend this will be easy. There will be hardship. There will be sacrifice. But I believe in the strength and ingenuity of the human spirit. We have faced greater challenges and overcome them. We will overcome this as well." Look directly into the camera. Blup-da-da-da-da. "To the people of Earth and all her colonies, I say this. Stand strong. Stand together. The galaxy has shown us that we cannot rely on anyone but ourselves. Very well, we will prove that we need no one else. We will build a civilization that future generations will remember with pride." The broadcast ended. Around the world, there was no panic. No riots, no protests. Instead, there was something that surprised even the government officials who had planned for the worst. There was unity. For the first time, generations. The nations of Earth set aside their differences. Resources were pooled. Factories that had been idle for years roared back to life. Scientists shared their research openly. Engineers worked around the clock to solve problems that had seemed impossible. Just days before, the message from the galaxy had been clear. Humanity was alone. Humanity's response was equally clear. So be it. In orbit around Earth, a vast construction project began. Thousands of ships, thousands of workers, millions of tons of material. They were building something the galaxy had never seen before. A barrier. A shield. A wall between humanity and the universe that had rejected them. The technology had been developed in secret over decades, hidden away in classified laboratories, waiting for the day it might be needed. Now that day had come. 3 weeks after the withdrawal, the barrier activated. A shimmering wall of energy expanded outward from the sun, passing Earth, passing Mars, passing the outer planets. until it encompassed the entire Sol system. From the outside, it looked like a bubble of pale blue light, beautiful and strange. But when alien sensors tried to penetrate it, they found nothing. No signals could pass through. No ships could enter. The humans had sealed themselves away from the galaxy. On Nexus Station, Counselor Threx received the report with disbelief. "That's impossible," he insisted. "They don't have that kind of technology. We made sure of it. We restricted their development for a century." His aide swallowed nervously. "Apparently, Counselor, they developed it anyway." Without our knowledge, Threx stared at the image of the barrier on his screen. For the first time in his long political career, he felt the cold touch of genuine fear. The humans had not just walked away. They had locked the door behind them. And suddenly, the galaxy was very quiet indeed. The first month after the human withdrawal was marked by celebration throughout the galaxy. Speeches were made. Festivals were held. Politicians congratulated themselves for finally driving away the troublesome species that had been such a nuisance for so long. High Arbiter Veluxus addressed the Galactic Council with what he believed was the final word on the matter. "The humans have shown their true nature," he declared, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "They lack the strength to face consequences. They run and hide like frightened animals. Let them cower behind their barrier. The galaxy is better without them." The chamber erupted in applause. Representatives from 100 worlds cheered and stamped and made whatever sounds their species used to express approval. It was the greatest moment of unity the Council had seen in decades. But the celebration did not last. It started with small things. A factory on Valorian Prime shut down because a critical machine component had failed, and no one knew how to repair it. The component had been designed by human engineers. A hospital on Keith suffered a catastrophic software failure in its life support systems. The code had been written by human programmers within weeks. The small problems became big problems. The Nexian banking system began to collapse. The core algorithms that processed trillions of transactions every day had been created by human mathematicians. Without regular maintenance and updates, errors accumulated. Accounts vanished. Fortunes disappeared. The crystalline beings of Nexus Prime, who had always considered themselves the masters of galactic finance, found themselves helpless. The Keth agricultural sector fell into crisis. For 30 years, they had relied on seeds engineered by human biologists. These seeds were designed to require annual genetic updates, a safeguard to ensure continued business relationships. Without those updates, the crops began to mutate. Harvests failed. Food shortages spread across a dozen worlds. Transportation networks ground to a halt. Human navigators had mapped the safest and fastest routes between star systems. Human engineers had designed the engines that powered most civilian vessels. Human technicians had maintained the space stations and fuel depots that made interstellar travel possible. No one had realized how deeply humanity had woven itself into the fabric of galactic civilization. They had been so busy looking down on the humans that they had never noticed how much they depended on them. Counselor Threx stood for a special emergency session of the Council, his usually confident voice trembling. "You're facing a crisis," he admitted. Unable to meet the eyes of the other delegates, "Our preliminary assessment indicates that human technology, human knowledge, and human labor account for approximately 37% of all galactic economic activity." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Furthermore, Threx continued, "We have discovered that many systems we believed to be of our own design actually contain hidden human components. They embedded themselves so thoroughly into our infrastructure that removing their influence would require rebuilding entire sectors of our economy from scratch." High Arbiter Veluxus rose from his seat, his compound eyes blazing with fury. "This is unacceptable," he shouted. "How did we allow this to happen? How did we become so dependent on a species we considered inferior?" No one had an answer. On the Thraxian homeworld, a species of tall, gray-skinned warriors watched their mighty fleet sit idle in space dock. The ships were impressive, armed with the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. But the targeting systems had been designed by humans. The navigation computers had been programmed by humans. Without access to human maintenance codes, the vessels were little more than expensive sculptures. General Krath, Supreme Commander of the Thraxian military, received the news with cold fury. "We paid them billions," he growled. "We gave them contracts. We made them wealthy beyond measure. And now we discover they've built weaknesses into everything they touched." His aide, a young officer named Threll, cleared his throat nervously. "The analysis suggests these were not intentional weaknesses. The humans simply made themselves indispensable. They did not sabotage our technology. They just made it work better. And now that they are gone, we don't know how to maintain what they've built." Krath slammed his fist against the wall, leaving a deep dent in the metal. "Find a way to break through their barrier," he ordered. "I don't care what it takes. We will drag them back by force if necessary." But the Thraxian scientists had no better luck than anyone else. The barrier surrounding the Sol system was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It seemed to absorb energy rather than deflect it. Weapons simply vanished into its surface without effect. Probes that entered never returned. After 3 failed attempts to penetrate the barrier, Krath was forced to accept an uncomfortable truth. The humans could not be forced to return. They could only be asked. 6 months after the withdrawal, the Galactic Council convened its most important meeting in centuries. Representatives from every major species gathered to discuss what had once been unthinkable, begging the humans to come back. "We must approach them carefully," suggested Facet 7, the Nexian delegate, her crystalline body chiming softly. "We treated them poorly for a very long time. They will not trust us easily, trust." Veluxus clicked angrily. "We are the Galactic Council. We do not beg, we demand. The humans must understand their place." "Their place," Threx said quietly, "appears to be inside a barrier we cannot breach, building a civilization that does not need us. Perhaps we should reconsider what their place actually is." The debate raged for hours. Pride warred with desperation. Anger battled fear. In the end, fear won. A delegation was assembled. The 12 most powerful species sent their finest diplomats, their most skilled negotiators, their most humble representatives. They traveled to the edge of the Sol barrier and sent a simple message: "We wish to talk." For 3 days, there was no response. On the 4th day, a single human ship emerged from the barrier. It was small and unarmed, clearly a messenger vessel rather than a warship. The alien delegates watched with a mixture of hope and anxiety as it approached. A face appeared on their communication screens. It was a young man, barely out of his 20s, with an unremarkable appearance and a calm expression. "I am Christopher Lane, Jr., attached from Earth's Department of External Affairs," he said. "I understand you wish to speak with us." Junior Attach, the highest-ranking diplomats in the galaxy, and Earth had sent a junior attach Veluxus, struggled to control his outrage. "We are the senior representatives of the Galactic Council. We demand to speak with someone of appropriate rank." Christopher's expression did not change. "I am the appropriate rank for receiving initial communications," he replied. "If you have a message you wish conveyed to Earth, I will relay it. Please make your request, and someone will respond in due time." The delegation exchanged uncomfortable glances. They had come prepared to negotiate, to bargain, perhaps even to apologize if necessary. They had not prepared for indifference. "We wish to discuss the resumption of relations," Threx said carefully. "The galaxy has need of humanity. Trade must resume. Cooperation must be restored." Christopher nodded politely.
"I see."
"I will inform my superiors. Please wait here for our response." His ship turned and vanished back through the barrier. The delegation waited. Days passed, weeks, a month. The galaxy held its breath. The waiting was unbearable. Ships from across the galaxy gathered near the Sol barrier, watching, hoping, praying to whatever gods their species believed in. The delegation that had come to beg for humanity's return grew larger with each passing day. What had started as 12 representatives became dozens, then hundreds. Counselor Threx had not returned to Valorian Prime. He could not bear to face his people. To explain that the species they had mocked for so long now held their fate in its hands. Instead, he remained on his ship, staring at the shimmering barrier that separated him from the only beings who could save his world. Any response? He asked his aide for the 100th time. Nothing, Counselor. The barrier remained silent. Threx closed his eyes. He thought of his home, of the warm waters where he had grown up, of his children and grandchildren. If the human-designed infrastructure continued to fail, the environmental systems that kept Valorian Prime habitable would collapse within 2 years. His entire species could face extinction, and there was nothing he could do but wait. Inside the barrier, life on Earth continued at a pace that would have astonished the watching galaxy. Factories ran around the clock. Laboratories hummed with activity. New technologies emerged at a rate that defied all projections. For decades, human scientists had been forced to work within the restrictions imposed by the Galactic Council. Certain fields of research were forbidden. Certain discoveries had to be shared before they could be developed. The Council had claimed these rules were for safety, but everyone knew the truth. They were designed to keep humanity weak. Now those restrictions were gone. In a laboratory complex beneath the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Samuel Price led a team of physicists working on what they called the Dimensional Fold Engine. It was a technology that the Council had specifically banned humanity from researching. Now, freed from those constraints, they were making progress that would have taken centuries under the old system. The initial tests are promising, Samuel told President Cole during a video briefing. We believe we can achieve practical, faster-than-light travel within 5 years. Not through the standard hyperspace lanes that the Council controls, but through an entirely new method. Our own method. Cole nodded slowly. What about the other projects? Samuel smiled. The agricultural engineers have developed self-sustaining crops that don't require annual updates. The medical researchers have found cures for 3 diseases that the Keth had been selling treatments for at extortionate prices. And the defense team has begun work on weapons systems that would make even the Thraxian military think twice about threatening us. Cole leaned back in his chair. It's amazing what we can accomplish when we're not being held back. Sir Samuel said carefully, the question everyone is asking is, what do we do now? The Council is begging for our return. We could go back on our own terms, remake the galactic order with humanity at the top instead of the bottom. The president was quiet for a long moment. Is that what you think we should do? He asked. Samuel hesitated. I think we should be careful. We've spent a century being treated as lesser beings. The temptation to turn the tables, to become the oppressors instead of the oppressed, it's strong. But I'm not sure that's who we want to be. Cole smiled slightly. That's exactly what I've been thinking. Outside the barrier, the situation continued to deteriorate. 3 minor wars had erupted as species fought over resources that humans had once traded freely. The Keth and the Valorians, former allies, now blamed each other for the crisis. Old rivalries, long suppressed by the stability that human commerce had provided, resurfaced with a vengeance. High Arbiter Veluxus called an emergency meeting aboard his flagship. The leaders of the 12 most powerful species gathered in person, a rare occurrence that showed just how desperate things had become. We cannot continue like this, Veluxus admitted, his proud stance diminished. Every day that passes, we lose more. Factories close. Ships sit idle. People starve. We must find a way to reach the humans. They don't want to be reached, said Facet 7, her crystalline voice heavy with sorrow. We had our chance to treat them fairly. We chose contempt instead. Now we are paying the price. General Krath pounded the table. This is weakness. We should gather every fleet in the galaxy and tear down that barrier by force. With what? Threx asked bitterly. Half our ships don't work anymore. Our weapons require human maintenance codes. We would be attacking with sticks and stones. Krath snarled, but had no response. There is another option, said a quiet voice from the end of the table. Everyone turned to look at Ambassador Seelan, an elderly female from a minor species called the Malori. They were a peaceful people, known for their wisdom and their neutrality in galactic affairs. What option? Veluxus demanded. Celan rose slowly to her feet. Her silver fur was streaked with white, and her large dark eyes held centuries of experience. We could apologize, she said simply. Not as a tactic, not as a strategy, but genuinely. We could admit that we were wrong. We could acknowledge that we treated humanity unjustly. We could promise to do better. Silence filled the room. Apologize. Krath laughed harshly. The Great Galactic Council does not apologize to anyone, let alone a species of primitives who couldn't even achieve space travel until a few centuries ago. That attitude, Celan said calmly, is precisely why we are in this situation. We looked at humans and saw only what we wanted to see. Weak, inferior, useful tools to be exploited. We never bothered to notice their creativity, their resilience, their determination. We never considered that they might one day surpass us. She looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. The humans are not coming back because we ask nicely. They are not coming back because we threaten them. They will only come back if we give them a reason to believe that things will be different. And that starts with honesty. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Pride clashed with necessity. Old prejudices battled against cold reality. But in the end, desperation won out over arrogance. A new message was composed, different from the formal diplomatic requests that had been sent before. This message was simple, humble, and unprecedented in galactic history. To the people of Earth, the Galactic Council acknowledges that humanity has been treated unjustly. We acknowledge that our laws and practices have been unfair. We acknowledge that we allowed prejudice and greed to guide our actions. We do not expect forgiveness. We do not demand anything. We simply ask, is there any path forward? Tell us what you need, and we will listen. The message was transmitted toward the barrier. This time, the response came quickly. A single line of text broadcast on all frequencies. Your request has been received. A response will follow. 3 days later, the barrier opened. Not completely. Just a small gap, wide enough for a single ship to pass through. And from that gap emerged, not a diplomat, not a warrior, but a simple cargo vessel carrying a crew of ordinary human civilians. They carried food for the starving Keth colonies, medicine for the Valorian sick, repair manuals for the broken Nexian banking systems. Not everything the galaxy needed, but enough. A gift freely given, with no conditions attached. And with it came a message. This is who we are. This is who we have always been. We share. We help. We build. You tried to make us less than what we are. You failed. Now watch what humanity can do when we are free. The galaxy watched, and for the first time, it began to understand. 1 year had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. 1 year of chaos, crisis, and painful awakening for the species that had once ruled the stars. And now, finally, the barrier around the Sol system opened fully for the first time. President Nathan Cole stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed space station that orbited just inside the barrier's edge. His hair had turned completely gray over the past 12 months. But his eyes were bright with something that looked very much like hope. Beside him stood Ambassador Daniel Harris, recalled from retirement to serve once again as humanity's voice to the stars. Katie Brooks was there too, promoted now to senior diplomatic advisor, her youthful uncertainty replaced by quiet confidence. The broadcasts are ready, sir, Katie reported. Every communication relay in the galaxy will carry your message. Cole nodded slowly. He had spent weeks preparing the speech, writing and rewriting it until every word felt exactly right. This was the moment that would define humanity's future among the stars. Let's begin, he said. The cameras activated. Across thousands of worlds, billions of beings turned to watch. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, every delegate fell silent. President Cole began to speak. People of the galaxy, for 100 years, humanity sought to be your partners. We came to you with open hands and open hearts. We shared our knowledge freely. We traded fairly. We ask only to be treated as equals." He paused, letting the weight of history settle over his words. That request was denied. Again and again, we were told that we were not worthy, that we were too young, too primitive, too different. Our colonies were stolen. Our people were exploited. Our dignity was trampled. And when we protested, we were laughed at and told to be grateful for whatever scraps we were given. His expression hardened, but there was no anger in his voice. Only the calm certainty of someone who knew exactly where he stood. So we left. We sealed ourselves away from a galaxy that had made clear we were not welcome. And we discovered something remarkable. Behind him, the main display came to life, showing images that made the watching galaxy gasp in disbelief. We discovered that we did not need you. The images showed human achievements from the past year, new worlds terraformed in months rather than decades using technologies developed in secret. Cities rising from barren ground. Ships of designs never seen before, sleek and powerful and beautiful. We discovered that the restrictions you placed on us were not for our protection, as you claimed, but to keep us weak. Once those restrictions were gone, our scientists achieved breakthroughs that your experts told us would take centuries. Our engineers solved problems that your councils declared impossible. Our people built a civilization that needs nothing from anyone. Cole let those words sink in. We could have stayed behind our barrier forever. We could have built our own empire among the stars, leaving the rest of you to deal with the consequences of your actions. Many of my advisors argued for exactly that. He shook his head slowly. But that is not who we are. Humanity has always believed in something greater than revenge. We believe in second chances. We believe in redemption. We believe that even those who have wronged us can change. His voice softened slightly. We received your message, your acknowledgement of injustice, your request for a path forward. We have considered it carefully. The entire galaxy held its breath. Humanity is willing to establish relations with the galactic community once again, but not on the old terms. Never again on those terms. He straightened his shoulders. Here are our conditions. First, the Galactic Council will have no authority over human space, human citizens, or human interests. We will never again submit to laws designed to exploit us. A murmur rippled through the watching delegates. Second, all future agreements will be bilateral, negotiated directly between Earth and individual species. We will deal with those who treat us fairly and refuse those who do not. The murmur grew louder. Third, any species that wishes to maintain relations with humanity must sign a charter of mutual respect. This charter will guarantee equal treatment, fair trade, and the recognition of basic rights that apply to all sentient beings. Those who sign will gain access to our technology, our medicine, our knowledge. Those who refuse will receive nothing. Cole paused to let these words register. Fourth, and finally, we reserve the right to withdraw again at any time, for any reason. If we are cheated, betrayed, or treated as lesser beings, we will leave. And next time, the barrier will never open. He looked directly into the camera. These terms are not negotiable. You may accept them or reject them. The choice is yours. The broadcast ended. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, chaos erupted. Delegates shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate rejection of humanity's arrogant demands. Others begged their colleagues to accept before it was too late. Counselor Threx pushed through the crowd to reach High Arbiter Veluxus. We must accept, Threx said urgently. Our worlds are dying. Our people are suffering. Pride means nothing if we are too dead to feel it. Veluxus's compound eyes burned with fury. They dare to dictate terms to the council. They dare to treat us as supplicants? Yes, Threx said quietly, because that is what we are. We made ourselves dependent on them, and then we drove them away. Now we must live with the consequences of our arrogance. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, there was never really any doubt about the outcome. One by one, the delegations approached the human embassy on Nexus Station, which had reopened with a full staff and a very different attitude than before. One by one, they signed the Charter of Mutual Respect. One by one, they accepted humanity's terms. Some did so eagerly, recognizing the chance for a new beginning. Others did so bitterly, their pride wounded beyond measure. But all of them signed, because the alternative was unthinkable. Ambassador Daniel Harris stood at the entrance to the embassy, greeting each delegation personally. He was polite but distant, professional but not warm. The days of humanity desperately seeking approval were over. When Counselor Threx came to sign, he paused before putting his mark on the document. "I owe you an apology," Threx said quietly. "Not as a diplomat. As a person, I treated you and your kind poorly for many years. I told myself you deserved it. I was wrong." Daniel studied the Valorian for a long moment. "Apology accepted," he said finally. "Now let's see if you can prove you mean it." Threx nodded and signed the charter. Behind him, a line of delegates stretched out of sight, each waiting their turn to formally acknowledge what the galaxy had finally learned. Humanity was not inferior. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was simply different, and that difference had proven to be their greatest strength. In the weeks that followed, trade resumed. Human ships once again traveled the stars, but now they traveled as equals rather than as second-class citizens. Human colonies were rebuilt, and no one dared to challenge their right to exist. Human voices were heard in galactic affairs, and this time, they were listened to with respect and in a small office on Earth. President Nathan Cole sat with his granddaughter on his knee, showing her pictures of the stars. "Will I get to visit those places one day, Grandpa?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Cole smiled and held her close. "Yes, sweetheart. You'll visit them all. And when you do, you'll walk among the stars as a human being. Equal to anyone, bowing to no one. Free." The little girl smiled back at him, too young to understand the weight of those words. But one day she would understand. One day she would stand on alien worlds and know that her people had earned their place among the stars. Not through war, not through conquest, but through courage, through unity, and through the simple refusal to accept anything less than what they deserved. That was humanity's gift to the future, and it was a gift that would never be taken away again.